Hey there, welcome back. Today, I thought we'd use one color, purple, with a little bit of green and create this monochromatic monotype. So let's get started. We're going to create a daisy chain effect with our colors from light to medium to dark using various values of purple. We start with white, we'll mix dioxazine purple and light ultramarine blue. Then we'll mix more light ultramarine blue, and then we'll mix cobalt violet, and then at the end we'll add some green for a highlight. Here I'm applying the lightest color to the background to create the sky and the water. I'm using a dry house painter's brush to apply it because I like the texture and I like the loose broken color in the final print that this kind of a paintbrush gives me. By the way, I'm using a gelatin plate for this at 6 by 6 inches, and I'm using a registration board I made. You can see how I made it in an earlier video on my channel. Once the plate is covered with paint, I put the paper into the corner of the angle bracket, which will ensure registration with subsequent layers of color. Rub it a little bit, and the paint will transfer onto the surface of the paper, and you can see the texture I get on the background here. So here I've switched to the middle color and a palette knife. The middle color is a mixture of the sky color plus a little bit more dioxazine purple and a little bit more of the light ultramarine blue. If you want that tree line or the mountain line, whatever you think it is, a little lighter and a little more forced into the background, add some more of the light ultramarine blue to push it back a little bit visually. I'm using a palette knife and I use very little paint on the palette knife. You just want to make sure that there's enough on there to cover the surface. And make sure you keep it flat because you don't want to dig into the gelatin plate with the edge of your knife. So you put the paper on, you give it a little rub, and this is what you get. So now I've switched to the darkest color. It's also the warmest color on the palette, and it will bring the image a little bit forward. All the other colors are a little duller and a little bluer, so that will push them into the background. I'm applying this color with a palette knife as well, and I'm applying it thinly, just a little bit of color on the back of the palette knife and spread it out on the gel plate. I'm doing two sections here. I'm keeping the river area separate so that when we do the final print, the sky color will show where that bare river area is right now. Then I folded up a shop towel, a dry shop towel, and removed some of the ink that I didn't want or the paint rather, that I didn't want on the surface. And I wanted some texture in the bottom of that foreground area or the bottom left area, so I removed some of the paint with the shop towel as well. Again, line up your paper into the corner of the angle bracket, rub a little bit, and there we have it. Here I've switched to some direct painting now, and I'm using dioxazine purple straight from the tube on the back of a palette knife to create some cast shadow on the far shore of the riverbank. I'm finding the color a little bit too intense, so I dipped a cotton swab into some water and I started spreading that dioxazine purple around. Thins it out to a nice, softer violet on the surface. Here I switched to a brush. I dipped the brush in water to thin out the paint, and I dipped it in a little bit of that green gold paint, and I decided to brush it on the forward riverbank. I wanted to create a little bit of variation in color on the surface so it's not all violet, and I want an area that will attract your attention right away, so I made the assumption that this green gold would work. Then I decided the green gold was a little bit too intense, so I added some of the sky color on top. And here I'm just scraping through the sky color to thin it out a little bit so that it's not quite as intense on the surface. And here I added some more sky color in the background just to create a separation between the medium tone color and the dark tone color, a little bit of visual interest in the background. So that's it. That's the print. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you like it, and we'll see you next time.